All right, so I reviewed the first Rebel Moon. I guarantee you don't need to go back and watch my review of that one. You don't need to watch Rebel Moon Part 1 at all. I can sum it up for you like this. Imagine a D&D campaign where instead of the party meeting at a tavern, you go and pick up each party member and then stretch that out to 2 hours, and that's the movie. It's so inconsequential what happens in the first part that I was watching this with some friends, and I told them, don't worry, you don't need to have seen the first part. I'll fill you in on anything you need to know. And then the movie opens with 3 minutes of Anthony Hopkins narrating all of the events of the first part. So really, if you're looking to see this Rebel Moon thing, if you're curious to check it out, just start with part 2. You're not missing a thing. But I can't recommend that you watch this movie other than the schadenfreude of watching what happens when Zack Snyder has full creative control of his own IP, so there's nothing for him to bastardize from something else. It's just, this is him. This is what he himself can come up with that is pure and untainted, and it's just his vision, and it's nothing, okay? It's such a paper-thin premise. It's just he wanted to make his own Star Wars, and he didn't want to put in the effort to properly develop it. The subtitle is, Part 2, The Scargiver. And Sophia Boutella's character, the main character, she has the nickname of the Scargiver because she's the one who was set up to take the fall for the assassination of the royal family. And she has given the villain, who's some admiral guy, he has a scar from his fight with her in the first movie. And he's just I want to keep it because I have been given a scar by the Scargiver. And it seems like maybe you call her the Scargiver because she gave you that scar. She didn't scar the royal family. She was framed for the murder of the royal family, right? So the title just doesn't make any sense, and it's just overly explanatory. He could just say, I got a scar, I'm gonna get that Scargiver. It's such a stupid title. A bunch of this movie is literally just watching people harvest grain, because again, the plot of the first movie was the Empire, the homeworld, or whatever it's called, it doesn't matter, this is Star Wars, just not Star Wars, is they've come to this farm planet and they're like, we want all of your grain to supply our troops, and we're coming back in 6 weeks, and you better have all our grain. And so they spent that 6 weeks instead gathering 5 or 6 people to help them fight off the Empire. And so then this movie, it does the standard, oh, let's teach these farm people how to defend themselves while we, with our more, advanced combat knowledge, can help back them up. And so basically every trope you've ever seen in any of those things, it's all played out here. There's a character who, her whole identity is that she is a mother who lost her children. And she, ends up sacrificing herself for a kid that she has no relationship to. Literally what happened is that kid looked at her earlier in the movie. I'm not joking. It was just a moment where they just have a kid who lives in the farm and he looks at her. And because of that, there's a connection. And she sacrifices herself for him, and her getting closure for having failed to protect her daughter or something like that. And there's just no effort put into building up the relationship between her and the kid. The kid, I don't even remember if he has any lines. And her death sequence is so drawn out that I got bored, started looking at my phone, and then looked up because I forgot I was watching the movie, and only then did she die. It was so long that I got bored, and when I remembered that I was watching the movie after looking at my phone for a minute, then she died. That's how drawn out that death sequence is. In terms of the action, if I have a general praise for Zack Snyder as a filmmaker, I think he makes interesting action sequences, and even that is really just not on display here. Given a blank canvas and unlimited freedom from Netflix to do whatever he wants, he basically ends up recreating that thing. You remember the late 2000s video game meta of everything is more realistic and gritty, and by that they mean they put a brown filter on everything. Well, that's this movie. The entire field is basically, they have the battlefield itself is over the harvested wheat field, and so that automatically is a very brown thing to look at. And all of the explosions are brown, and all of the ships are brown, and it's just like shades of brown. Obviously, I wasn't going to recommend this movie. It is better than the first one because something actually happens, but Zack Snyder has had so many chances, and he keeps failing upward. He keeps getting all of these huge budget films from established properties, and he's got a small, loyal fan base of basically film idiots who think that he has invented every film shot ever made. And this is the best that he can come up with when he's left to his own devices. When Netflix is just paying for him to make a big movie because Netflix wants to recapture the success of the Snyder Cut, right? This is all he can do. And he's gonna be releasing, I don't actually know if it's out yet, but I know he was like doing a director's cut of these two films. And why? It's being released directly to Netflix. There's no rating that you need to worry about. It can be R and it'll just be fine because there's no box office to worry about. It's just on Netflix. But he made a PG-13 movie, and the director's cut is going to be R, and it's going to be 4 hours long probably, and like, don't let him get away with it. At least with like, say, Batman versus Superman, I argue that if you're going to watch that movie, you need to watch the Ultimate Edition, because otherwise you're watching a version that has cut out all of the parts of the movie that explain what Lex Luthor's plan is. But here, there's no mandate from Netflix saying that his movie has to be a certain length. That makes no sense because Netflix knows who Zack Snyder is, so they know what they're getting with him. And so this is just him trying to build on, the whole thing of, oh, wait for the director's cut. That's when you get the good stuff. And it just lets him get away with making mediocre products and then reselling them to you later for the hype. And the worst part of it all is that the movie ends on a cliffhanger. I thought this was going to be a 2 and done. No, we're getting apparently a third movie. Why? This movie could have been a memo, is what I'm saying. And now it's being stretched out into a third one. Whatever. I'm probably not going to be reviewing that one. I cannot recommend this movie. Zack Snyder has had like 2 projects where it's just really been him. It hasn't been any established properties. It's just been him. And the first one was Sucker Punch. And that is like the most Snyder film ever because he basically just invented a scenario where he can have action sequences disconnected from anything that the story is actually telling. And then here, he's trying to build his own mythos, and he's just got the most generic, cliched, uninteresting thing. He's not good at directing actors. There's no profound dialogue or anything like that. It's just flat and boring. Don't watch it. Hey, thanks for watching. Your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell and drop a comment below telling me what you thought of the video. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patrons Ms. Milena and Hella Vetrum, and my Anemone Friend tier patron Piftle Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.